Why are millions of people having paranormal experiences which appear as technological torture? And why are so many humans dedicated to division? In this video, my co-host Kevin and I interview Rob, an experiencer from Australia, who gives us his testimony about going from atheism to spirituality. He talks about what he used to overcome what he perceived as technological attacks, and how he implemented some simple steps of gratitude to overcome this perceived torture. He also talks about the need for unity in all experiencer communities, which is perfect for our channel because we've experienced a form of discrimination in certain online spaces. The purpose of this Parawareness channel was originally twofold. One, to educate the general public about the frequency of paranormal experiences in order to better understand our reality. And two, to provide a place of unity and understanding for experiencers of all types. But when we tried to post about the targeted individual phenomenon on places like r/experiencers on Reddit or on the subreddit High Strangeness, I've been downvoted into oblivion on many of these different subreddits just from posting about targeted individuals. In these spaces like experiencers and different subreddits like that, we were blocked by the mods, and they would tell us that the TI experience was completely different than alien encounters or alien abductions. At Parawareness, we don't believe this is true. I personally have talked to people who were having targeted effects, and they believed it was coming from aliens. They were having the same experiences, the same results, the same symptoms as someone who knew that this was coming from government technology, and these people knew for a fact that it was coming from aliens, that the attacks were coming from aliens. And throughout the history of humanity, there's a thing called the Kundalini Awakening. And the Kundalini Awakening, you go through a form of psychosis where your entire world changes and you start to experience extreme paranormal activity. The point is that there have been weird things happening to humanity as long as we've been here. In my opinion, that's why we created religions and gods and aliens, to explain these paranormal happenings. And when the symptoms are the same, shouldn't we examine all of it under the same framework? The people who have really done their research talk about this all the time, that all paranormal happenings share certain characteristics. And whether we see them as spiritual or non-human intelligence or hallucinations, ghosts of the deceased, or many other things, they all show the same symptoms. Many targeted individuals believe that this is all technology based, and that's totally understandable. There are many whistleblowers talking about direct energy weapons and the use of technology to control the population. The fact that these technologies exist is an undeniable fact and could definitely play a part in all of our experiences. But these experiences are not new. And to only focus on the possibility of government interference is, in my opinion, to be intentionally dismissive of human history. So if you've been experiencing anything paranormal and disturbing, I suggest you listen to this interview with Rob, where he explains how he used gratitude to overcome the suffering that he originally perceived as technological torture and now sees it as more of a Kundalini awakening or a spiritual awakening. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy the episode. Every experiencer has to overcome ontological shock, and we have to do it while the world says we're crazy. At Parawareness, we explore life through the paranormal lens, emphasizing psychology and spirituality over technology. This is Parawareness. I'm here with Rob and Kevin Orr, and Rob is an experiencer, and he posts on r/experiencers on the subreddit r/experiencers, and of course Kevin Orr created the subreddit Positive TI, and Rob posted on Positive TI as well, and it's it's a little rare that we have a crossover of people who can feel comfortable posting on r/experiencers and r/positive TI. There tends to be a little bit of a separation there, but I'm very thankful that Rob, is an experiencer and is welcome, is willing to come into these TI type of spaces, because he sees, I think, as we do, that there's more crossover than people understand. But anyway, so let's get to it. I think I'll go ahead and maybe let Kevin start this off. Kevin, did you have anything that you wanted to say to start off here?
Just that I'm thankful that you responded to, Tony, I don't know if you remember, but it was a while ago that I made a post in Positive TI. And basically what I did was I took some time and I went through like a ton of posts from the previous years. And I just took out people's advice from people that were doing well, that managed to return back to like a normal, healthy lifestyle and get through some of the beginning phases of it that are, they're a lot more chaotic and maddening. So I took that post and I said, maybe some people over at Experiencers could also use this or appreciate it. So I posted it over on Experiencers, and one good thing happened, and there was it had its ups and downs. First of all, I was surprised to see that it was all very positive stuff. Like all of it was very encouraging, very uplifting, and it got 10 upvotes. In fact, it got downvoted. It was it was maybe 20 different people's just uplifting words of encouragement, and it actually got downvoted simply because, in my opinion, it had the word targeted individual in it and gang stalking, which is it has this stigma attached to it that nobody wants to hear it. They just don't want to even hear that word. They don't even want it to be a part of their psyche, which says a lot about that. The amount of power that comes with the word targeted individual or gang stalking. It does something to somebody's psyche that they're get it out of here. They don't even want to go near it. But on the upside, Robert responded and said that he had already gone through it and was doing well now after, over a decade, and began to share a little bit of his testimony. I asked him to post in Positive TI, which he did. It was a fantastic post. So this just happened to work out that the three of us could get together the next day and do this. So I'm going to leave the floor open to you, Robert. If you could just really just give us your story as somebody that has already been through it, how you perceived it, what it was like, your actual testimony, what you went through, your family, the whole background, the signs and symptoms, and what you did to get through it, and what everything is like now.
About 10 years ago, I had this stressful situation at work. I don't want to get too much into what it was, but it triggered a lot of strange occurrences that I couldn't quite conceptualize at the time. At the time, I was an atheist. I had a fringe interest in esoteric topics and conspiracy theories and UFOs and stuff, but it never really had an impact on my life in any other way apart from some kind of general curiosity in my life that I had an interest in. And so I guess this event triggered, first of all, the first thing I noticed was energy in my body. But as an atheist at the time, I had no idea how to conceptualize that or what it was. And the first thought that I went to was that people were using energy weapons on me. And I've studied sound history and sound art, and I've done courses on energy weapons, and I understand how they work. And that was the first thing that my mind went to. And the only way I could understand what was happening to me was that some bad actors were using energy weapons on me. I've since come to learn that that is a pretty common side effect of spirituality, being able to feel energy. And I guess I've always had this sense of feeling energy in my life, but it was amplified to the 10th degree during this event and during the start of my first awakening. So that kind of, and then I started getting all the usual other spiritual symptoms like synchronicities and things I would think about would appear on my phone or on TV, or someone on the street would say it and repeat it back to me. And as an atheist, I had no framework to understand that kind of thing and what was happening to me. the only way I could kind of think what was going on was that my devices were hacked, my computer was hacked, I was being chased. And then I kind of all of a sudden just started seeing cop cars everywhere. And I don't know. And then the paranoia grew and grew and grew to a point where I just couldn't handle my life anymore. I left my job. I didn't leave my bedroom.
So you began isolating, because that's a very common thing most people do. And,
Right.
and as you're talking, in my head, I'm picturing the metamorphosis from a caterpillar into a butterfly, like just kind of like squirming, and all of a sudden it's like some sort of change is coming, and I don't know what it is, and then it just starts to like envelop itself in its own spiraling web.
A cocoon is a great way to look at it. And,
yes.
and when you think about it, like you saying, Kevin, like most of us end up going through that cocooning time where we hide from the world, we're scared to death, and we cut off from everything else. Most of us end up doing that, right?
For me, like, I mean, looking back at it now, and this is in hindsight because I couldn't see it in the time, but I was, when we say, you're being woken up, it's almost like like if you're in the gaming, you have like non-player characters, NPCs, and then you have player characters, PCs. It's almost like the transition from an NPC into a PC, where it's like before this, I was just this sort of automaton. I was just this consuming, desiring, needing, craving, longing, yearning, next objective to complete sort of thing. Like not really putting a whole lot of thought into my life, just how can I fill myself today? Like what can I do to make myself feel happy today? And that was what was controlling my life. It wasn't me. It was my next objective to complete, which would give me pleasure, and push away pain. So, and then transitioning out of that for me has been like the metamorphosis, if we're going to use the cocoon, analogy there, learning to recapture myself and like who the hell who I am. So let's pick up from there, Robert. So you're isolated in your bedroom. You notice something's going on. You're experiencing all the signs and symptoms of gang stalking. This is what gang stalking is: workplace harassment, mobbing,
Cops,
street theater. The cop car is all of a sudden like you're just drawing this whole world that's coming against you. Like the world is starting to come against you. So what happened from there once you started isolating? Medication or anything like that? Or
So the medication came later, but at this point I was in my bedroom and I started noticing a motorbike driving around the block of my house like all day for about 8 hours. And I didn't notice it at first because I guess it was a heavy built up area, but then I kind of thought about it and realized this, there's this kind of traffic noise wasn't there before. And then I started noticing a helicopter flying around all day and all these noises. It felt like the outside world was encroaching and trying to out to get me, I guess, and just monitoring me and just watching what I was doing. And I don't know if I was manifesting that or if that was happening in real life, because I was getting intuitive thoughts that perhaps I was being set up for some kind of crime that I didn't commit. And I had all that just going on in my head. And one day I had dinner plans with a friend, and all of a sudden I heard a helicopter hovering over the top of my house. And this was like physical loud noise and like movement of the room. And I've since come to learn that can be an experience of a Kundalini awakening, where there's such a heavy roar in your ears that it sounds like there's a helicopter like just above your room. And I don't know if it was a real helicopter or if it was a Kundalini awakening, but I went to have dinner with my friends, and I swear that the people around us were talking about what we were discussing at the table. And it's just that level of paranoia that just built up over time to the point where I tried to take my own life. The night before I did, for some reason, I don't know why I did this. I thought I had such heavy energy running through my body and up my spine. I thought there was a machine on the other side of my bedroom door sending that to me. So I had a voice that just told me to just allow it and succumb to it and just let it flow through me. So I sat cross-legged in front of the door, and this is all as an atheist, mind you. I had no idea what I was doing, and I just sat cross-legged in front of the door, And I just said, you can do whatever you want with me. And then all of a sudden I just felt that energy shoot up through my spine and up through my crown chakra, which I've come to, learn and accept all that kind of stuff now. And then the next day, I think I just had enough and I tried to take my own life, and I was put on I was committed. I ended up in hospital. Luckily it didn't work, to be honest, because things have turned around for the best since then. But I ended up in hospital, committed for a week on medication that I'm still on until this day. And that was kind of the start of the next 6 years or so of my life, of piecing my life together and rebuilding my life from scratch, which I'd gone through many times before, like absolute rock bottom, and rebuilding my life from the bottom up multiple times before in different ways. And there's the start of that process again.
Can I interrupt here and just ask, were you not to brag at all, but just to be honest with us, were you seen as a somewhat gifted child?
I was intelligent as a kid, and I actually had memories come back to me being filmed at primary school, conducting certain tests. It's a flash memory of being filmed conducting tests, and I don't know what or why, and I don't think it was ever communicated to me or my parents. But I did get good grades growing up, and I did get ducks 3 times in high school. So yeah, if you want to consider that gifted.
So many experiencers and the ones who end up calling themselves targeted individuals, but so many experiencers are gifted in either just in basic, intelligence, or in creative abilities like music and art and things like that, right? There's a natural knack. Most of us have the natural knack for those kinds of things, and are usually seen in our childhood as smarter than our peers a lot of times. And of course, then you have the involvement and the possibilities of the GATE program, right? The Gifted and Talented Education programs. And so it makes you wonder what all that's about. But anyway, so I love this story. It's so, in a way, Robert, it's so typical. Even though I don't mean to say it is in any way not interesting. It's of course it's interesting because we've all gone through a version of this. What's so interesting about it to me is that every one of us, and I think it's because consciousness is individualized, and so each one of our experiences is so unique, even though they have so many matching parameters and matching parts. There's a method here that is used with all of us, that the same tricks are used over and over, but it is it's individualized. So that makes it hard sometimes to say, oh, I'm having the exact same experience as those people, because it's not exact, right? And that makes it hard to identify with others. So when you started going through this time where it was like, you're having all these synchronicities, you're having helicopters over your house and all these things, and then so it culminates in this moment where you accept it, and then it gets terrible, and you had the Kundalini spinal chakra openings and all that, and when that happened, and then you went medication, you said. Now, I also went medication in the beginning, and I've been off of it now for about 3 or 4 years. So do you feel like the medication is, for anybody out there listening, would you recommend medication for people, or are you in the camp of it worked for you, right?
I don't think I need it, to be honest. And I'm working through finding a new doctor at the moment that's going to let me get off of it. I've gotten voices in my head funny to say I've gotten voices in my head after that, but I've been told that medication in particular doesn't have an effect on my intuitive abilities and my psychic abilities and my connection with my higher self. That particular medication doesn't, but the ADHD medication that I'm also on might have an effect, more so than the antipsychotics that they eventually put me on. But the funny thing is, when I did end up in hospital and on medication, all the symptoms stopped. And I don't know if that's because whoever was targeting me achieved their goals and thought they'd won and left me alone and didn't think there was any more reason to target me. But that was when I did start rebuilding the rest of my life. And yeah, it was a slow process to piece all the pieces together. And I still don't have all the answers. But right now, I think I'm at a point in my life where my guides and my higher self are drip feeding me downloads, filling me with about backstory about what was actually happening back at that time, just so I can tell my story to people and help people and get that information out there that we are powerful and infinite spiritual beings, and we do have the power and control over our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And if we take our power back, we can impact our lives and manifest a better life for ourselves. We don't have to be stuck in fear and paranoia, because we have the power within ourselves through simple techniques that take time and effort, but they're still simple techniques. And through doing a 5-minute practice per day, I think people can escape the type of terror that, me and you guys were in.
What you said, that practice, it's so funny. It was a little bit of a synchronicity that when you mentioned that practice that you had of kind of basically praying for people that you love at night before bed. It's so weird that I just started doing that about probably 3 weeks to a month ago. I was lying there in bed and I was getting physically attacked, just jacked up. They were hitting me hard that night. And most nights I'm not allowed. It's very difficult. I never know if I'm going to get to sleep or not. Right. And it's been this way for 10 years for me. And so I started doing this thing where I was like, I've been for years now. I've been saying, look, I have to just embrace love. I've got to embrace that love is the answer, because we all see that the more, when you're being attacked in these ways, the more that you react with anger and fear, the more that it reacts and builds on that. And
yeah.
the more that you show love and compassion to whatever is happening, then the more that you're just going to have a better time, honestly, right? And I'm not saying like compassion and doesn't have to mean subservience, but just compassion for whatever is doing this to us, and saying, hey, I'm just going to be myself and wish the best for them, even though I don't want them to keep hurting me. And so I started, but anyway, I've been practicing this love, and I've been doing mantras that Kevin's helped me learn. And I started thinking about my friends, and then most nights when I lie down to sleep now, and this just started, and then I saw your post yesterday. But one of your steps is every night have a routine, have a bedtime routine where you actually kind of pray for the people that you love in whatever way of prayer is good for you. All I do, because I don't subscribe to any certain deity or anything, all I do is I imagine them smiling and I imagine them being at peace, right? And that's what I do with all the people that I love. And at night before I go to sleep, I try to think about everyone in that way. So anyway, the main thing that I wanted to look at was that list that you made. That short list was so impressive on r/experiencers, because so many people had this same thing. It's like, you hear Buddhists, like, I'm not saying Kevin is this way, but Kevin is a Buddhist. And so you hear the spiritual people and then sometimes they get so caught up in flowery language, and they get so caught up in being poetic and making sure that they appear intelligent, and then but what you did was so cool, because you said, I'm going to get straight to the point and I'm just going to make some 6 bullet points or whatever it was. Do you happen to have that on you, or I can look it up myself? But I did want to maybe just go through those during this interview at some point.
I brought up the 3 that he put in the comment section of his post, and this is what I was pulling up while you were talking. And these were really on point. Number 1, mentally say all the things you are grateful for that day. Absolutely anything, from the conversations you had to the sunshine to the coffee that you drank to your dinner to your shoes to your eyesight. Be creative. Gratitude is an amazingly powerful mindset. Number two, visualize sending love to people in your life who you think might need it. The universe is interactive, and if we send love to people, that's what we get back. Even send love to people who you may not like, they might need it most. And number three, set your intentions for the next day. Say all the things you want to happen the next day. Things like, I want to wake up happy, I want to be positive all day, I want to smile at strangers, absolutely anything. I mean, those three right there, if anybody can really put those into practice, and for me, that was a big part of my daily affirmation work that I had to go through every day for months on end. On top of in my head saying you're all liars, I then had to do the flip side of that and reaffirm how much how wonderful the world is. Even though they're all liars, like the world is still perfectly formed.
The way that I got to this was because the voices were telling me, they started using the word offering. And this sucked really bad for me because most of my experience was physical and sexual, right? Like it was physical pain and physical pleasure and body takeovers and so then offering to me became this symbol for an energy sucker, an archon, right? And an archonic force that is sucking my energy through sexuality. And so, but then I started reframing that word and thinking about, and sometimes the phenomenon does this with us. The voices you hear will have a word that has like several different ways that you can take it, that you can interpret that word. And because we're in a negative mindset, we will interpret it in the scariest, worst way that we can. And then once I was able to start reinterpreting offering, because then they would start talking about offerings when I was just like, watching TV or talking to a friend or having a thought while I was, walking in the park. And then I started realizing what it was actually saying was, you're always offering your energy and your thoughts, and you are always offering to the universe something, and be aware of what you're offering in every single moment. And gratitude is a huge part of that. And so that was on that list that Kevin just read, right? Like the gratitude of just everything in your life, being grateful for this cup of coffee and being grateful for this conversation that I got to have with a stranger or whatever. But yeah, Robert, if you could, take off of that. I mean, it's a constant offering. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll touch on this briefly for context, but maybe 9 years after that initial awakening to the dark experience I had another awakening experience that was full of much more love and joy, and it was just a much better, gentler awakening experience. And through that, my guides taught me very practical ways of raising your vibration to be able to escape the kind of systems of control that we're all brought up to live in. And whether you want to call that the matrix or whether that's just, the society that we live in. But I think we are being purposefully manipulated to keep our true power and identities down and small so that we don't awaken to our true potential as spiritual creators who can manifest the reality that we want. And if enough of us awaken, we can manifest a collective reality that's better for all of us. A collective reality where, someone might invent free energy, and then we can get rid of artificial scarcity. And, we don't live in fear and control anymore. We live embodied with love and positive emotions. But I guess the way to get there is to raise the vibration in your field and in your body. And the way to do that is to feel love, because God is love and God is light, and those two things are the same. So God is full of substance, and negative entities are a lack of substance. They're a lack of God. They're further separated from God. So they have a lack of light and love. That's why they have to feed off of us to gain that, to get their energy, because they can't produce energy of their own. They're a lack of energy, and higher dimensional beings and beings who are service to others are more reciprocal with their love, and we exchange love and emotions and feelings and energy. So we always have a constant supply where
Salaspils. Piedodiet, mana pilsēta. Piedod Latvijā par to, ko esmu pateicis. Piedodiet, bet domājiet ar savu galvu, ar savu sirdi, ar savu dvēseli. Nevis ar to, ko jūs dzirdāt un lasat komentāros, medijos. Domājiet un dariet pareizo izvēli. Piedod mani, Salaspils. Piedodiet, mana pilsēta. Piedod Latvijā par to, ko esmu pateicis. Piedodiet, bet domājiet ar savu galvu,